All right. Good morning there, everybody watching on Facebook Live here. We have special guest Ben Watney here, an elder from our First Nations here in Red Pheasant. We have Mrs. Martel, our grade 2 teacher as well. Sorry, we're running a little late. It is Indian time out in Indian country. But we're here. And today we're going to speak a little bit on kinship, as we would say in Tree Wagutuin. So we're going to ask Ben here a few questions and stuff. He's going to kind of give us some info on things, and we'll open up the floor to anybody that wants to get a hold of and ask some questions with him. So here we go.
Okay.
You can introduce yourself, Ben, if you'd like.
Sorry. Yeah.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Ben Watney. I'm from the Red Pheasant Reserve. I'm a great-grandson of Watney, a brother to Baptiste and Red Pheasant. And down the line, my grandfather was Peter Watney. He was the youngest of the boys. There's 9 boys and 5 daughters in the Watney family. And my father was Lennox Watney, and my mother, Delia Pelcher from Turtle Mountains Reserve. And she belonged to a clan over there. So I was raised up partially with a clan and Christian upbringing. I'm 71 years old. I'll be 72 on April 18th, I was born in 1949. I have 3 children. I lost 1 daughter in an accident and her husband. So we're raising the grandchildren now. And it stays with you for life. Every day when you wake up, you got to think of your lost one day. So as an elder, it's to give me the opportunity to change my life. Like I learned to pray, and I learned to play with my grandchildren. I've been sober since 1979, 42 years on New Year's Eve. That's my history. I've been sober. And it's good to be sober, to see your children. It changes your life, So that's where I'm at right now. I'd probably, I wouldn't have been around if I hadn't quit drinking, But I said a simple prayer, Jesus, if you're real, you can take this away from me, this liquor, desire to drink. So he did. And it's been, it was New Year's Eve. 1979. So I've been living like that every day, and it's good to be sober.
Yeah, that's been a lot of years. You've accomplished that so far, and
I've enjoyed it.
yeah.
But getting back to my kinship, the 9 brothers, there's a lot of Watneys, eh? A lot of Watney boys. There's 9 boys. And like the oldest sister was Harry Brayman's mother, eh?
Mm-hmm.
And Harry passed away. He was 104 years old. And his memory was really intact. Eh? He could talk about right to the day. And so any information he gave me was from him. Eh? He lived it. He took Watney around by the hand because Watney was blind. Eh? And he was 8 years old when he was taking old Watney around. So most of my history I learned from Harry Brabant. Eh? Like today, we have a lot of brothers and their grandfathers, and there happens to be a lot of intermarriage happening on the reserve. It's because they don't know their history. Right from about 17 years old, my grandfather would have my girlfriend sitting right in front of me, and he'd be asking her questions,
Mm-hmm.
and he'd tell me about halfway through, "You can't go with this girl anymore." I said, "Why?" He said, "That's my grandmother's daughter."
Oh yeah.
Or my sister's granddaughter, eh? So that happened to me 3 times. Eh? Finally, I left the women alone in this area because I was related to everybody here.
So you had a lot of girlfriends then back then.
I couldn't even go to Mosquito because the Stones over there are all Watneys, eh? Like Frances Nicotine and Annie Stone were sisters, eh? Walter Watney's daughters. So we're related over there too, eh? So my grandfather told me we're all related. He said, "Yeah." I remember when these Mosquito people come visit, they'd come there a week at a time, like they'd bring their tents. It just wasn't a quick visit. They'd come and stay 3-4 days. And I'd ask, "Oh, who's this?" "Well, it's Tom Moselman. And I said, "Well, where is he from?" And he's from the States. And I learned a lot of stuff like that, like
Mm-hmm.
hearsay. It was like Benson's and Moselman's and Sonias. They're brothers, eh? Different names.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Redfin and Watney, but these are brothers, but different names, eh?
Well, that's the thing we were talking about with that one day is a lot of young people nowadays they don't think they're related to certain people because they've got
Different names.
a different last name,
Yeah.
but that a lot of them don't know that they even have relatives from other clans and First Nations that are related to them. Like I myself have a lot of relatives from other First Nations as well. So and to inform a lot of the younger generation that they kind of I don't think really know where they're all related to.
Like my grandmother was, her sister was Eliza Bigman, eh? Eliza Poyak, that's Nolan Baptiste's mother.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how close we're related, eh? And my grandmother's sister was married to Antoine Lohnsinger and Sweetgrass Christine. So I was raised, because that family raised Frank Benson and Alec Mooseman, eh? So I was told those are your uncles, eh?
Mm-hmm.
So that relationship. And I asked my grandmother, "Oh, how many sisters do you have, eh?" She said, "We have Queenies, the Sequaces, and Beardies, eh? And there's other sisters, eh? Like that chief from Muskeg, his mother was a sister to my grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
So this Minnie Pachawas, she was a Watney. She married Arnold Pachawas, Mr. Wasser. There's probably 700 from that. That's a Watney too, eh? So all these reserves, they're related, eh? My grandmother, she's related to Ladou's, and so that's how close it is, eh? Icebusters, they're all my relatives. So every time I go to Beardy's, I feel at home because I'm related to everybody there. Related to the Gambles, I'm related to the Sequaces. And these are big families, eh? And you look at, like there's 39 Watneys in Norway right now. So
That's
it's,
quite a
they're
ways.
spreading out there. They're in Utah, and they're all over the place. And I met people that were living in Toronto. They're Watneys. And they're NASA scientists, they're rocket scientists. I met relatives in Vancouver I never knew. I was from Gilbert Watney's family, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Winston Watney, and I went and met them, eh? So every day you meet relatives, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Howard McMaster has a book on genealogy. Eh? He documented all the families, Watney families. So I don't know who's selling the books there, but if you want to find out, you can buy that. It was $10 last time. You can look at all the relatives there. And it's a good book, Dave, to pass on to your children, eh?
Mm-hmm.
So they don't marry they don't marry their cousins, that's kind of a thing. I had to do that with my family. I had to show them where you're related here and you're related there. So, I
Well,
didn't know.
well, when I was growing up as well, I was kind of informed who we were all related to from all the other places too, besides red pheasant, and I kind of I do the same thing with my kids and kind of let them know that who we're related to here and there, and like you said, a lot of the families and stuff now are spread out toward all over the world or all over the country. So
Yeah.
like us as well, we have a lot of family that are down in the United States, and we have some across seas too as well. So, Caitlin, you have anything you'd like to share about things like that?
Um, yeah, it's just important to know who your family are, and that's what I've been learning too. Like, I realized my last name Martel is like a really, really like a real big family, but I don't even know like any of them. So, but I know I feel like it's important to know who your family is for that reason too. And yeah, I do have some questions here that I just gathered. Um,
Okay.
so just first of all, so how do you say, uh, um, well, okay, I gathered questions, whatever, and like in our ways of family, like in the Nehio way, um, I asked questions as to, and I didn't know really how to answer it, but you know how they say when you're first cousins, like I don't know what first cousins, second cousins, but to me, like we say like they're brothers and sisters and whatnot. So I just didn't know how to answer that, but and like your uncles and aunties are like your mums, and like your mom's sisters are like your mums, hey?
Yeah.
So someone asked me that, and I didn't know how to answer it, eh? So if that's something, I don't know if you wanna, if you,
Well, there's legal terms, like,
yeah, like they know the legal terms, but
yeah,
in our way, they're like, why do you guys say that? And I was like, I don't know, just It is.
The way I was raised, if you were shirt tail cousin, you're related, eh?
Like it didn't matter, like
Yeah,
first, second, third.
yeah,
I just
it
said, oh,
didn't
those are my
matter.
brothers and sisters, anyways. Yeah.
Like I was told to go and visit my relatives in Mr. see. So
Yeah.
all they gave me was one name. Then I found out the whole reserve was, but that was the deal. Same with Gambles and the secrets. See. But I got to meet the grandmother's day and the grandfather's day, so that cleared up a lot of misconceptions that I had. Like I met some girls that they were twins. I didn't know they were twins. And I was going out with one of them, but they had switched.
Holy smokes.
So
You're a lucky man.
I'd be talking to this girl about something. About 5 minutes later, she didn't know what I was talking about. And I was, what? I thought I thought there was something wrong with me, but here they're twins, eh? And later on, I found out they were my cousins, eh? So
Huh.
my grandfather straightened me out on that,
They're trying to share you.
Right? They didn't know either, eh? They didn't know either, eh? And this guy called. I went to a wedding in James Smith, eh? And there was a guy in the back there. They asked an elder to say grace, and he was talking about about a half hour. Eh? Finally, this old guy in the back, he started pounding it. He said, "You're talking to God like He knows what you want, you know." And he said, right away, he said, I looked back, he had to be in his 90s, eh? So I didn't say he was disrespecting anybody, because the elder that was praying was probably 55, eh? But he mentioned everything, and he was praying. Finally, Saul Sanderson come and talk to me. He said, your elder wants to talk to you back there. And when I was loud, he said, yeah. I said, I knew he was a Watney, because I could sense in his voice the way he was talking, eh? He was saying, I'm an elder. I'm a first and second world veteran, and he talked like my uncle Gavin Watney, eh? So right away, he called me over. He said, Ben, you look like your grandpa Peter. And I looked at him. I never met him in my life, eh? He said, I'm the black sheep of the family. And I said, okay. I said, who's your mom? He said, you ever heard of Notago? That's Joe Dressman's mother.
Mm-hmm.
So he said, she had me over here, but I grew up in Cumberland House on a reserve over here. But it's not a reserve yet. They're trying to say it's a Métis community, but I've been on that reserve all my life. And my brother is Dave Clark. Oh, okay. Because I was going with one of the Clark girls, Hedinger, eh? And so I did kind of yeah. And how about them girls back there? He said, well, those are my granddaughters. Those were the ones they were twins. That's the first time I recognized them, eh?
Huh.
They were playing tricks on me. But, it was fun to find out who you're related to. I went to James Smith. I got relatives there, eh? That's blood, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Like late Weemas, William Baptiste, he had a son that went to war, eh? And his name was Edgar Baptiste, eh? Or Edgar is named after him. And he's a war veteran. And they said he was killed in 1943, 41.
Mm-hmm.
But Edgar was taken prisoner in Hong Kong, eh? And when they liberated Hong Kong, they put him in a mental hospital. And in England for about 10, 12 years. And he started to regain his memory, eh? You know, he always seen horses, you know, and sloughs and people playing hockey on, you know. He'd married the nurse that looked after him in that hospital, eh? So he always knew he was from Canada, you know. He thought he's from the Northwest Territories, you know, because Balford was the capital of Northwest Territories when he joined the war. Eh?
Mm-hmm.
But with his memory loss, he didn't know who he was. And one day there, his twin boys told him, there's a artist that has all his pictures at the mall. Go and look at him. When he seen the pictures, he seen Maggie Sonia bent over, and he told his wife, "That's my aunt." These pictures, I'm telling you about all my memories. Look at them. This is what I remember. Alan Sappy. I want to meet this artist, he said. So he met Alan Sappy, and Alan asked him who he was, and he said Edgar Baptiste. And Alan just looked at him. You're dead, eh? But Alan wouldn't tell anybody when he came back to Canada. He heard that, deserters got shot, so he wasn't going to take a chance and Edgar get shot. That's the way he thought, eh? Because Dad got after him. How come he didn't tell me he was alive? So, that this is our relative, eh? And Edgar has 38 children over there, grandchildren in England, eh? Mm-hmm. So those are Watneys, eh? So they're preserved over there, eh? And he wanted to come back here, but the government didn't want to pay him what they owed him. He wanted compensation because he was abandoned in a mental institution, eh, with a no-name tag around his neck. And, when I first met him, I doubted who he was, too, because he didn't look like, And I seen him sitting there beside Uncle Cecil. Uncle Cecil was darker than him, And I thought, when somebody said he was a black, he goes, "Cascasteras," there's no. I looked at him and he had those features, eh? And then I did my own research. I found his pictures of him in the veterans, national defense, and I got pictures of when he was young. So I went and showed his late wife, Mrs. Ben, Victoria, and she said, "Who is this guy?" She said, "That's Edgar." So I showed a old picture of Edgar, and she said, "Yeah, that's him. That's the same man." So this, it really astounded me, like, why was, like, he's a Watney too, but he was preserved over there in England, eh? So there's got to be a reason why God took this man and kept him alive for 98 years, eh? And he's got all the offspring over there. So that, to me, that's a relative, eh? Mm-hmm. And he's my uncle, eh? And you look at when Weemas was the hereditary chief that time, William Baptiste, eh? When he heard his son got killed, eh? He said, "No way, no." Because him and George Whitney took him to a train station here. They put a war bonnet on him, and they gave him a feather. They said, "Anybody that's wore this bonnet has never died in battle. But if you do die," he said, "this feather will come back to us." That feather never came back to George or anybody. So Weema said, "No, my son's still alive. All these years," he said, "No, he's still alive." Anyway, Edgar, when he seen all them pictures there, Red Pheasant, he started inquiring about, he got hold of Larry Watney, you know. But he wrote Leonard Watney there, eh? And I guess Larry, that's his name too or something, eh? And he read this letter, he didn't know what was really going on, but he just put it away. He thought it was the other Leonard Watney. Well, anyway, Weemas, when he married Edgar's mother, there was a young boy that had a white father, eh? That's Leonard Watney's dad. That's why Leonard Watney's family, they all have blue eyes, eh? So that's another story. So, you know, you see where they're like Emo's from there, eh? But
Mhm.
his mother's a Baptiste, eh? Or a Patriot.
So kind of back in the day like that, a lot of these family clans that were on the reserve are probably pretty well closely related
Well, yeah.
down the family tree, eh?
There's about five main families in Saskatchewan.
Mm-hmm.
They're all related from there.
Mm-hmm.
A Watney woman married into a Hennekews, and that's a big family in Sandy Lake. There was a Hennekews go right down to Isle Cross. When I was there, this lady she was married and she was an administrator there for about 30 years. She was related to us. Eh?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it's all over the place. You know, we have relatives all over. It's a big family. Like my dad figures there's about, back 10 years ago, there's about 4,000 Watneys with all the offspring and everything. Well, he said, look at Mr. Watts, there's 700 there just from one family. So that's a big.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I'm never, anywhere I go, I meet relatives. I'm going to PA today. I'm going to meet relatives there today. So they want to meet me because one guy owns a store on the way to, I think it's just out of Mississauga. His 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 mother and my dad were first cousins, eh? So
Mm-hmm.
their mothers were sisters, eh? And that was Gordon Johnson, Walter Johnson. You name it, we're related, eh? We got relatives in Whitefish. And you know, but you're going way back, eh? Way back. Every time my dad trained me, he would say, "You got to go way back." He said, "3
Mm-hmm.
generations, then you'll find out who was who." Eh?
Well, that's the thing nowadays. A lot of the younger generations, it's be good for you guys to approach people like Ben or anybody else that you have that knows a little bit more about your family tree and who you are related to. Not only on the reserve, but in other communities as well. Um, I know even myself. I'm older, and I still when I'm go places too with my parents and them, and then or when we have family gatherings, I still meet new family members as well. So it's kind of good to actually know where you really come from and who you are you're related to. Caitlin, you have any more other question for Ben here?
Um, no, it's just really good. I think it's nice listening to these stories, and I feel like it's important for the children and even like my generation, like even like we need to hear this all the time. I feel like it's important to even our young ones, and I still like see people my age making like they don't know who their relatives are, And they think just because they're like how many reserves away, and they think, I don't know, they I think it's important to always find out like last names and whatnot. And yeah, just listening to your stories. And
Where are you from?
I'm from Moosomin, Minnesota, but also like the water hen. But me, I don't, yeah, like that's one of the things I really want to do. Part is to find out all my relatives that way. Because whenever I go places too, everyone's like, so and so, and I don't know, I feel bad because I don't know, and I don't know, I feel like to myself, and like find out who my family is there, and yeah.
Like that Beatrice Thomas, one of my sister-in-laws married to Thomas, so that's how close it is,
Mm-hmm.
And the first time I met you, and like Musa, when you look at that history, they lived in this Delmas,
Mhm.
in the Roman Catholic Church there. And, he moved them out of there, and he gave his people that land. So they moved Muslim into where they are now. And they moved Thunderchild way up by Turtleford, So when you look at the treaties, that's what they did, And I know my treaties pretty good. When I brought the treaties here, I asked the young children, you see the names on there? Page who I said, that means your relatives signed this treaty. Hornmaker was a head man when Red Peasant signed the treaty. He was a consular here, and he signed that treaty, Treaty 6, The proof is there, So, I look at, even Waterhen, I knew Fred Martell, I knew him really good. And there's a lot of people up there in Waterhen that they probably came from the States too, And they settled there. Because when Custer was wiped out, this reserve next to us, they were in that they killed Custer, so they had to move from the States and come here.
Well, you pretty well know that there's a lot of descendants in the United States that are related to a lot of people up here in Canada. We got a lot of relatives down in Montana as well, and
The Whitfords are from Turtle Mountains Reserve, That's
mhm,
my mother's reserve,
mhm.
So I know that history too. These Amiots, they're from there. Same with other families, Babels, they came up from that area and they come and married women over here. So
Mm-hmm.
on my mother's side, I know that history.
Mm-hmm.
She made sure I knew. She said I was like her grandmother was one of the wives of Sitting Bull. The woman dressed in yellow, that was her name. So we're offspring there,
Mm-hmm.
And some of them people I seen in Waterhen, they got the same features as Sitting Bull, Same features. And I don't think they even know it. Somebody's got to go back and find out. Like the residential system displaced a lot of our people, Their names, they changed their names, When they hung those 11 people up here in Battleford, everybody fled. I think in Red Peasant, the people that had that name fled to One Arrow. Because the chief there told me for years, I got a lot of band members from Red Peasant. But a lot of these people, they had to flee. And the Roman Catholic Church asked them, "What's your name?" And asohnamakitah, say Stone Chop. So they ended up in Pile Hills, Little Black Bear Reserve.
Mm-hmm.
Because they had to get out of here. They're hanging people here. These people had names like Rock, and the Roman Catholic Church changed their name to the Rochers,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what it means in French. So, you have a lot of relatives, that moved up to Green Lake and north, to flee.
Mm-hmm.
Because these guys, they hung 11 people without going to court. Like, I often wonder about, my grandfather was saying my nephew, John Thunderton, John Massachusetts, Well, was that his name? No, he's a yellow muddy. You tell me the name, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Well, where are they from? He said, Little Chippewa Reserve. That's where my sister lived.
Mm-hmm.
So his sister must have married into the Yellowmud family,
Yep.
That's why he called John his nephew. So I learned these things from way back.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way I could confirm them is Harry Brabant, because
Mm-hmm.
he was really knowledgeable, eh?
Mm-hmm.
And he knew the history. He'd tell you when you were born and what time. The kind of guy he was, eh? So
Well, that's what we were talking about earlier. That a lot of like my generation and down don't know a lot of their back history that far back, eh? And it's good to try and figure out and to try and learn this, because it's people like you that know a lot, have a lot of this information that can maybe show
well, you can
set
check it
them
out.
to
Yeah.
where they come from. So.
There's elders on reserve here that can confirm it or reject it, eh?
Yep.
There's still a lot of elders left here that know the history.
Well, pretty well. You can
Yeah.
probably pretty well go to any elder on any reserve, and you can trace back to see whether you're a relative to them or not. And
Yeah.
they probably have the same kind of information to give you if you were to approach them and ask.
And there's a lot of elders too that went through the residential system. They're lost.
Mm-hmm.
They're lost, eh? So I talked to a lot of elders that went to residential, and my grandfather went to residential school here in Battleford. And he told me when my dad took me to the school, he said, I got nine sons here and 5 daughters. If you molest any of my children, I'll come and kill you tomorrow, That's the way he was, eh? Well, Watney. He was not only he was a leader, eh? Back then. And he warned that principal. He said, anything happens to my kids, I'll be here tomorrow. Only 20 miles away. So my grandpa said, when I grew up in that residential school, he said, I made 87 coffins in that school. That's how many children died in that Balford industrial school, eh? 87. Then his dad and mother said, how come you're always putting my boy in with sick people? And that principal, well, your boy doesn't pick up their sicknesses. That's why we got him looking after these people that are sick. So anyway, I know that history. The residential, it broke up a lot of families. It broke up a lot of people don't know who they were.
Mm-hmm.
And it was encouraged to do that, And the government was told to take the Indian right out of the child, eh?
Mm-hmm.
And that's one way. You were given a number. You weren't a name. You were given a number.
Mm-hmm.
So that, my mother went through that in the States.
Mm-hmm.
My mother was 7 years old when they put her in residential school. She looked after five young girls, and they were crying. These kids were taken one night. She never seen them again. Neither did the parents. So when my mother was 13 years old, she took off from the residential school. And they had a warrant out for 40 years. She never went back to the States for 40 years. Because the laws are different there. She was charged with stealing the clothes that were given to her to wear. Like I grew up like listening to this. So my mother, when she got involved here, she got involved with Kanawemik, because she had a duty to look after children. That's what. And I think Kanawemik was good for red peasants.
We're going to kind of open up the floor here for a few, believe some questions.
Okay.
Ben, can you explain the last name Watani?
It means eagle tail feathers. That's what it means. Without being too fancy about it, that's what it means.
What is the right way of saying it?
What is the right way of saying that last name?
Watani.
Yeah.
I just said it.
Watani.
Watani.
Watani, there's more emphasis on that second syllable. Watani.
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 I have a question, where did the last name Baptiste come from? Because a lot of people.
Where did they'll come up on the screen here. We'll just kind of wait when they come up there. Where did the last name Baptiste come from?
Well, what I heard was Baptiste say that. That's the way it was pronounced. Not Baptiste, Baptiste. And there was a lot of people that, had that name before, Weemas, before Weemas, the dad had that. You can look it up in the records.
Ask him about the other last name, Sangri.
There's lots of last names that were kind of connected back then. Where did they kind of integrate and come together?
Well, there's big families like where Page was back then, You look at the treaty, the people that signed the treaties, those were the big families that were there. On Watney's part, he didn't want to take the treaty. He said, what's going to happen, the government will come after that name, and they'll kill you. Because he used to go to the States, in the winter time. So he knew what was going on in the States. They were killing treaty chiefs over there, using Indian Act chief and consul to do it. Just like they did with Sitting Bull. They used the Indian Act chief and consul to kill him. So he said, they'll do the same thing over here. If I sign that, you won't see my name. It's gone. You look at, where's Sweetgrass, Where's all these names that signed treaty? They're gone. Genocide, That's what it's called today, So, that's what Harry Brayman told me, why he wouldn't sign that. He told his brother, you sign it, red peasant. Anybody call red peasant today? No. Yeah, see? Nobody. So it was genocidal, to sign that treaty, That's what.
So a lot of these what needs from back then, a lot of them were brothers and sisters, and How did their families kind of branch out?
Well, there's
reserve.
nine boys, that's
Mhm.
Isaac Watney, like, for example, there's Man,
Mhm.
Wilfred Watney, and Richard Watney, they all live in BC, and I think Ron's in PA, or they've all went out and worked, there was no work on Red Bed back then. Yet you can read the documents, these guys that went to school, they all had good houses, they had gardens, they were trained, like they're trained in industrial school. Some of them were bricklayers. Some were. My grandfather was he was a journeyman carpenter. Peter Watney. All these, Dave Watney, Walter Watney, all their children, married pretty well off the reserve, Some of them married white women, and some of the girls that Watney had married lords of England. I seen those pictures of them girls, and we went back to look for those pictures in the museum. They were taken out of there. See, they're hidden, They took the pictures. We couldn't trace them or nothing. But Edgar was saying whenever he got in trouble in England, somebody was bailing him out. Well, it had to be your relatives, I said, that did that. What do you mean? I said, your aunts. And then as he got older, like when he was about 96, 97, he found out it was the Grants that were bailing him out. Because, this Grant, his son was John Alexander Grant. That's Watney. That's his son. And when this Grant he was running a business over in Battleford here, where on this side of the train bridge, that was the old Battleford Flats. And the Crees warned him, if you don't quit selling ammunition to the Blackfoots, we're going to burn you out. So they did. So the woman took John, and she took off, and the other one took his boy and went back to Montreal. That's the one that was educated, And he knew he had a brother over here. And like you look at the history and the Battle of Seven Oaks, this brother was over there, and he was on the other side. He was with the Nor'westers, right? He didn't go with Hudson Bay, and they had a war there. So he sent 600 warfighters to Watney over here. You come and back me up because I'm going to be fighting over here. So Watney took all his warriors up there to Seven Oaks to back him up. When they got there to fight, the battle was over already. And that's the first time they met, But Watney, he was raised, to be an Indian, That's all he knew. Same with Leonard Watney. White man, but he talked Cree all his life, and all his family are, the same thing. So that's where we're coming from, When we go right back, I had to go to court and for my mother's will. I had to prove who I was. I had to go back right to England, to Scotland, all the way back, and then on that side, the daughters married the chiefs on Turtle Mountains. They married the chiefs over there. So that's where my mother and my dad, you could look, they're even related there way back. So, I look at that whole system, But my dad didn't go over there for nothing. He knew that his uncle was from there. An uncle was from Turtle Mountains, His name was Dakota. He come here and married a Watney woman. And that the offspring is Alec Dakota Way. Alec Dakota Watney died in 1917 by a sniper's bullet in France, First World War. Alec Dakota Watney was a sergeant in the Edmonton police force. And his family are still, they're Watneys. They're still around. Lots of them. And I think Alec come and died here, the grandson of the Alec Dakota. He come and died in Cando here. Eh? He was in his 80s. Eh? But he had family too all over. Eh? So those Dakotas and Watneys are all related. Eh? So that history, anybody wants to check it out, go ahead, check it out. But I had to prove who I was. Eh? And, it started right from Edgar Baptiste told me, he said, those grants helped me out. I found out I was given 3 years jail for using different ID. He says I was out in 4 months, and I found out they're the ones that got him out. He said they kicked me out Christmas Eve. He said I walked out of that jail. So that, those kind of things that they're, you find out who you are.
Mm-hmm. Caitlin, do you have any more questions you would like to ask Ben here? I don't know how much time we have left here. Oh, okay. But even if somebody's out here watching the podcast, if you want to send in some questions to ask Ben, he can answer them for you.
What about the name Sangre?
Yeah, there's another question popped up here. What about the name Sangre? Where did that name come from?
John Sangre was he was from Bush Valley up here, just up by Red Bed, near Pritchard. They live up there, and he had I think 4 daughters, and Ernest Baptiste. Ernest Baptiste and Flora, and there's Sarah. And your aunt there.
John Sangre? John. No, I have my auntie Victoria
Victoria.
and Maud.
Maud, yeah.
Burton.
Who?
Burton.
Yeah.
And my mom.
Yeah, Teresa.
4 of them,
yeah. That's John Sangre, and it's the grandfather. But Flora was a sister too, wasn't he?
Flora is a sister to my grandma Sarah.
Okay, yeah.
Sarah Sangre.
Okay.
Here's a question.
Here's a question here, Ben. It says, Ben, you should write a book for the Red Pheasant people. I come from the Pichu and Benson family. I live in Rocky Boy, Montana. This is very interesting. So we got people all the way from Rocky Boy, Montana watching our podcast right now. We'd like to say hi.
Hi.
Pauline?
Yeah, Pauline, yeah. That's
I know for a fact
that's
a pretty big family down in Rocky Boy as well.
I grew up with her.
How did he get up there? He's a Belgian. Who?
So
Pauline, yeah.
it's we're glad that Ben had came in with us. I know he's been away for a while, but has been back on the reserve with us to come and share us some information with us. And I know for a fact he has lots. He's like a library himself. So if he had pages, you can turn a lot on him. So yeah, if you guys have any more questions out there, and you want to send them in, and we'll Ben will be glad to answer them for you.
Okay.
I don't know if Caitlin has any more story. Here's another one here. Chelsea Thunderblanket said it's very blessed to hear Ben's stories and history. I heard these stories growing up, so I know what he's talking about and heard other similar stories. My Muslim is Marius Watani.
What? Yeah.
Yeah, that's like,
Maybe talk a little bit more about what Marius is, where his family
Yeah,
came from
Marius
and stuff.
Watney is a son of David Watney. And Marius's brothers were Eli and Sam Watney. There's quite a few brothers in there, but they passed on early. My dad was friends with them when they were 17, 18 years old. That flu came around and he just hit you and you'd be gone next day. So my dad talks about those young guys. And Marius, I met his wife's family probably about 20 years ago. And the chief talked about when the residential school started, his grandfather took all the kids by wagon. They took off to the States. And they were raised over there. They were hidden in the mountains, you know. And Marius Watney's granddaughter is on a coin in the States. That's all over. I seen that coin. There's a picture of that young girl on there.
He went to one of the wars too or something.
Yeah, Marius was in Korea.
I remember when
Second World War II, I believe.
when I was smaller growing up, they lived out by my grandpa's old farmstead up there. They're just across the road, and Marius was a really good fiddle player. We used to listen to him a lot of time playing that.
Yeah.
Is not only that he played other instruments as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Marius has another sister too, Ines Dieter, She lives in Regina. Yeah, and she's got about 5 daughters. They just lost one, they're Connie. So that's another family I forgot to mention. My Aunt Ines.
Mm-hmm.
I think she's close to 90 now.
I think she's 89.
Yeah. So, when at my Aunt Gladys's funeral, she talked about some history there. She said that when Eli, her husband, her brother went to the sanatorium for 3 years, she come and lived with Gladys. And they'd go hunting deer, And they'd have to clean it up and everything, And that's how they lived, There was no welfare those days. But I started inquiring about who lived around there, and Ernest Nicotine, lived right close to her, and he used to go and cut wood for her and everything. And he probably trained Clifford and Lenny how to work. They're just young guys. I think Sylvia was just a little girl at that time, but there's Violet,
Mm-hmm.
Even that that side of the family, David Watney has a big family.
Mm-hmm.
Probably about 600 offspring from there. That's just a safe number. Big families.
Caitlin, do you have any more questions?
Oh, no, I'm not supposed to say it.
Okay. There are no more new questions.
No more?
Okay.
All right, so I don't know how long we've been on already. So
You can cut it down.
thanks for tuning in, and I guess we'll we'll sign out here. I'd like to thank Ben for coming in and sharing some of his knowledge for us, and hopefully kind of give a little bit of more information to where you guys originally came from and who you guys are related to, and it kind of it gives me a way to see where we come from as well. So, um, you don't have any more, Caitlin?
Oh, no.
Okay. So we will say thank you for sharing your knowledge, Ben, and maybe anybody out there that wants to know anything more or would like to know more, you can probably always get a hold of Ben somehow, and he can maybe give you share with you
Okay, I can give you my cell
whatever,
number.
yeah, whatever you guys can would like to know.
Also mentioned that we're gonna have them back in the near future to talk about treaties.
Okay, we will also have Ben in the near future coming out to talk a little bit more about treaty and how that came upon, and because I know for a fact Ben knows a lot about that, and that would be a really interesting thing as well to listen to. So
You stay tuned tomorrow.
stay tuned tomorrow. There will be another podcast. I think.
On values. We're gonna have about 3 guest speakers.
Huh?
On values.
Oh, on values. Tomorrow's podcast will be on values. So if you want to tune in tomorrow morning, same time, 10 o'clock. Hopefully it's on time. But like I said, Indian time is always there. So we'd just like to say thank you to you guys for tuning in, and we will see you tomorrow morning. See ya.
Thank you.